On everybody, I'm gonna let you guys come in. I know it's gonna take a second for you guys to come into the conversation. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. You know who I am, and that doesn't matter right now. I'm here tonight to talk to you about something that I think is so important for Black people to understand, for our people to understand, for all people really to understand who want to build wealth, and that is tax liens. How do people make money from tax liens? A lot of money is being made, millions of dollars being made by some investors. And as I've mentioned to you guys in the Black Business School, we know tax liens are one of the pillars of wealth. Or not tax liens, sorry, real estate. If you're involved in real estate, that's one of the three major pillars of wealth that we've talked about. And so to discuss this issue, I brought in an expert on tax liens, Miss Danielle Pierce. I know she's a part of the Fly Nubian Money platform, and she also has a platform of her own as well, and she can tell you more about that. So first of all, I'm going to ask Miss Pierce, how are you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you for having me, Dr. Boyce. How about yourself?
I'm doing really well. I'm glad you're here. Now, first of all, tell me the name of your company so I can make sure I get that correct. I didn't ask that before.
Sure. I'm Danielle Pierce, and my company is Women, Wealth, and Real Estate. That's the name of the company.
Women, Wealth, and Real Estate. Okay, good stuff. Good stuff. So tell me about your background. How did you get into real estate, and where did that sort of come from, that hunger to?
All right, so I'm gonna give you the short and sweet version. So like a lot of people, I had this idea to go to school and graduate and break the corporate ceiling. I have an accounting degree, so I was gonna make partner at a big six firm at the time. So that was my like overall life's plan. And then I graduated, got the job, didn't like it. I knew within about 90 days that I wasn't, the corporate life wasn't what I wanted to do. Fast forward 5 years, I ended up getting laid off in 2007. And at that time, I had just gotten my real estate license because I had wanted to be a real estate investor. I love to tell you that it's been, all 6 and 7 figure income since '07, but that would not be the case. It took it took quite a few years for me to replace that corporate income and then to become a 6-figure earner and eventually hit 7 figures in revenue. However, I was able to pull it off. I've been out of corporate full time for 11 plus years. And for the last 11 years, I've exclusively been in the real estate industry, doing various different aspects of it. But exclusively the last 5 years has just been repairing and maintaining foreclosures and tax lien investing. Yep.
Well, I think that's really interesting. So you started off like a lot of us. You started off with kind of thinking that one pathway to success would get you there. That pathway of like go to school, get a good job, get some promotions and stuff like that, and then everything would be great. And you found out that wasn't for you. I'd like to ask you a little bit more about that as we dig into the conversation. What was it about, being in the corporate, I call it the corporate plantation, but that probably sounds a little cynical. But what was it about sort of being in corporate that kind of turned you off?
Well, for one, even the field that I chose, Dr. Boyce, accounting, the only reason I chose accounting is because the only other person to graduate from college in my immediate and extended family has an accounting degree. And she took me to work one day with her. She worked at Northern Trust in downtown Chicago. And I was like, oh, this looks like a cool building. You're not living check to check like all the rest of everybody in the family is. So I'll be an accountant. And that was literally it. So my reasoning for getting into the field was wrong. But even just when I got into corporate, the atmosphere, the same thing every day, the same people, explaining your weekend every Monday and then explaining your plans for the weekend every Friday, the lack of freedom to do anything other than be at somebody's job doing what they tell you to do when they tell you to do it. And then, oddly enough, my very first audit engagement that I went on, I happened to look at the billing for it. And my first job, I started off making $50 a year, which at the time I thought I was balling, right? Because I was like, I'm gonna make $2,000 every 2 weeks. I get my first check, it was like $1,300. So like, this is some bullshit right here. Like, this is not what I signed up for. But I saw the billing, and as a first-year auditor, they were billing me out at $175 an hour. Meanwhile, I'm making $50 a year, which is like 28, $30 an hour. So I was just like, nah, this is not gonna work for me. That was literally the first seed that was planted, and it just went from there. Yep.
Wow. Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. Danielle Pierce, that's who I'm talking to. I remember my experience that made me realize corporate wasn't for me. It's like almost like because you have a limited vision, you have a limited exposure to things. you kind of sort of have an idea of like, okay, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to get out of my situation or out of the hood or whatever by doing this,
Yeah.
and I remember I would see, these people that looked like they had money, nice houses, nice cars, and they'd carry these briefcases and they all work for these corporations. And that's what I thought I'd be. I was like, I'll get an MBA and then I'll go. And I took a lot of accounting classes and stuff like that too as a finance major. And I was like, I'll get the MBA and I'll be making X amount of dollars and I'll be at this corporation and I'll be important and making lots of money. It'll be great. And I got this great internship in my sophomore year in college with General Electric in
Yep.
their aircraft engines division in Lynn, Massachusetts. And so they gave me this really nice apartment in downtown Boston, very expensive place that I couldn't afford. Even in today's dollars. Now, mind you, I ain't been to college in a minute, but even in today's dollars, I mean, I think that apartment was like $2,500 a month. And
Wow.
like, and I don't remember what year it was exactly, but I think Boys in the Hood had just come out. Like that's how long
That
ago.
was a long time ago.
Yeah, that was a hell of a long time ago, right? But even then, it was like 2,500 a month back then. It's probably $5,000-6,000 a month now, and it was like I had this luxury, in terms of how I was living, but I hated that job.
Yeah.
It was terrible,
And I bet you had did they give you a cell phone too, or a car or something like that, a corporate card and all those things too?
yeah. Well, I hate admitting it, but it was so long ago. Like nobody had cell phones back then. Even the rappers did. I don't even think Nas had made his first album cover where he's holding a big cell phone that looks like a walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
So cell phones are kind. I think the only person I ever saw that had a cell phone was Nino Brown in New Jack City. Looks in the car with the Kango on. He's got the big old walkie-talkie phone. Yeah.
Uh,
But anyway, but yeah, I mean, there were little perks that came with it, but it was almost like being paid to be a slave. It's like, okay, you come into slavery. We'll just make sure you have that your shackles are made out of gold. And I was like, oh, I can't do this. I need another route. And I did not know about things like investing or having a business or anything like that. So I just chose a different profession, right? It's like I turned down one type of slavery for another thing that kind of felt like slavery, definitely with the racism and stuff like that Black people go through. And that's when I chose to become a professor, because I heard they make good money, and you get a little more freedom. And even then it was like, gosh, this racism thing's everywhere. So that eventually pushed me away. I kept sort of pushing myself and being pushed away from the mainstream stuff. And I just wish somebody had taught me some of these things when I was young, like the stuff you do. Now, I want to, with that being said, I would like to ask you, you teach people about tax liens and how that works. Can you, for people who are not aware, can you kind of just start by just even describing like what that means?
Sure. So without being like overly technical, because it's late and I don't want everybody the eyes to start glazing over. But basically, tax liens come about when people own a house, they have property taxes, and they don't pay it. It's regardless of whether or not they're paying the mortgage or not. If you're not paying your property taxes either twice a year, once a year, whenever they're due, then you are at risk for your property going up for sale at a tax lien auction. Every city has one. The rules vary depending upon where you live. But rest assured, if you don't pay your property taxes, you'll end up on somebody's tax lien list. And then the list, goes out to the general public. People research the list, they go look at your property. They might be out front taking pictures, doing videos, doing all these different things to try to figure out what type of property do I want to invest in. A common misconception is that once you have a tax lien certificate that you're the owner of the property. It's not quite that fast. You will eventually become the owner. However, there's a period called redemption, where the owner can come back and say, you know what, I have all the money that I owe. I'm going to pay you back, pay all the penalties and fees, and reclaim like full ownership to my property. And that redemption period varies depending upon where you live. So where I invest, it's like 4 months to 1 year, which is stupid short. Like it's so crazy and phenomenal that it's that short. And then if the person doesn't redeem during that 4-month time frame, then there's a couple of other steps you have to follow, what your attorney has to follow, and then you actually become the owner of the property through buying the property at the tax lien auction. It is, I heard about it years ago. I've been in real estate for years. So I've been licensed for like 11 years. I heard about it when I first got started. And like a lot of people, I just assumed that because I didn't know how to do it, that nobody else knew how to do it as well. And so I ignored it. I was like, oh, that's a scam. There's more to it. That's a scheme. They're not really doing that. And then it came across my desk again, and I was like, I'm going to do that. So that was the difference between, the 20-something-year-old me and the 30-something-year-old me. So it's a phenomenal way to acquire properties. I literally can't stress that enough, because so many of us, especially Black folks, we get locked out of things. There's racism, there's still redlining, but then there's just credit. There's W-2s, there's income or consistent income, there's bank statements, there's check stubs, things that a lot of us are not able to furnish. And so tax lien investing like kind of deads all of that. You just literally need the money and the expertise, which you would get from working with someone like myself.
Okay, everybody, I'm talking to Miss Danielle Pierce, and she's an expert on tax liens and real estate. And we're talking about how to make money with tax liens. Everybody who's watching, make sure that you hit the like button, share button. If you're on YouTube, take a second, please hit that thumbs up button. And also, if you haven't taken classes, we have lots of great real estate classes and stuff in the Black Business School and stuff like that. So Danielle, okay, so, I guess to help people understand, what are some of the direct differences in your mind that come to mind when you look at the difference between, say, going to buy a property outright versus buying the property with the tax lien? What are the pros and the cons of going in each direction?
Great question. So if you buy a property the traditional way, let's say you have to use Bank of America, for example. Bank of America is going to require, I'm not even going to talk about self-employed folks. That's a whole different ball game. They make us go through like hoops of fire to qualify for anything, but just the average, regular, everyday person, you need 3 to 6 months bank statements. You need a consistent job that you had for at least 2 years. If you haven't been in there for 2 years, you have to been in that same industry for the last 2 years, at least 640, 660 middle credit score. You need to have money for a down payment, closing cost, and what am I missing? And you just need to be able to get a loan through a bank having all those steps. If you go through a tax lien auction, however, you just basically show up at the sale. And some of these sales are online too, you guys, if you're watching. You don't necessarily have to attend a sale physically. There's actually online sales that you can attend. You don't have to live in the state. So you could be investing anywhere in the country for the most part, just buying tax lien certificates in the comfort of your own home. So when you go to a tax lien sale, all you need at that point is just, once you've selected your properties using research and doing your due diligence, then you're just paying for the property. So the difference is, for a tax lien sale, the money is due the same day. So the money is due the same day. It's cash, certified check, money order, no credit cards, no debit cards. And then you go through the process of acquiring the deed to the property. And that's literally it. So it's kind of like a night and day difference. And then let's say the property needs work, Dr. Boyce, let's say it needs some work. If you go through a Bank of America is going to tell you, here's your draw schedule. You do this work, we give you this money. We're not going to pay you until the work is done, blah, blah, blah. And they put you on a time limit. If it's a tax lien property, once you're the owner, you can get to that work, whenever you have the funds and the wherewithal to do so. So there's no time limit as there is, if you're going through a traditional lender. So that's like one of the biggest benefits, in my opinion.
Interesting. So it almost sounds like with the tax lien approach, you can get better deals at a better price because you're able to buy in, because people can't afford the taxes on the house, right?
Absolutely.
And, okay, so you make the acquisition on the deed, and then what happens if the owner comes back and the owner says, okay, I'm paying my taxes, I want my house back? What happens with the money that you've already put up to acquire that property?
Great question. So the thing about, you guys, typically when we're talking about real estate, it's 45-year-old white guys, 50-year-old white gentlemen, penetrating gaze, blue eyes, and they're just like staring at the screen and just kind of telling you how you should invest and proceed. So I know this might be a shock to a lot of you, but going back to what happens if the person comes up with the money for the property, they essentially repay you, and then you earn interest on whatever you've paid. So let's say you paid, $10,000, just to give a nice even number, then you'll earn anywhere from 10 to 15% on that $10,000. So we're talking $1,000 to an extra $1,500 on your initial investment. And if you've paid for any attorney's fees, you get reimbursed for that as well. Now, just so you know, that percentage varies. Some places it's only like 5%, but in a place like Texas, where I'm at now, that interest rate is actually 25% per year. Yeah. So there are people who have lots of disposable income who invest in these certificates because they want the people to redeem, because they only want that 25% interest rate or that 10% interest rate. Because, like I know, savings accounts and, traditional savings vehicles, they're not paying double-digit returns for the most part. Not happening. Not happening unless you're talking about the stock market or some other type of investment. But tax lien, when they say, that's why they say it's no risk, because literally you do what you're supposed to do, you don't lose anything.
Wow, wow. By the way, people on Instagram, you're asking who I'm talking to. I'm talking to Ms. Danielle Pierce. And actually, people wanted to know where they could follow you on Instagram, stuff like that. I should tell
It's actually Danielle Pierce is my Instagram handle. Yeah.
Okay, then there you
That's
go. Easy enough. DaniellePierce.
Yeah.
Right. So, go follow her on Instagram. Okay. So, and everybody watching, please hit the like button, share button, thumbs up button. Show your love, show your respect, show your support for the sister who's sharing knowledge about investing. I'll tell you, Danielle, one of the things I've noticed is that people who are invested in real estate, who look like us, usually they got started because somebody exposed them to it at an early age. They had some sort of unique exposure, because you don't get exposed to this stuff, like in public school. You don't really get exposed to this in college. There's really not much. I can't think of any classes we had in the business school that taught you, how to go and buy shares of stock, how to go buy property, how to go and start businesses. Everything we taught, or everything we were learning, I remember, was like, here's what you do when a corporation hires you.
Yes.
And even it's funny now that I think about it, I literally do not remember in any of my finance classes them actually telling us how to go out and like buy shares of stock. Like, it sounds crazy, but I don't remember. I guess I figured it out somewhere along the way, but I don't remember actually being taught that, just that basic skill. So where was your exposure with real estate in terms of where you learned just why real estate is even something to look into?
It definitely was not from being a child. I'm a product of a single mom. There's 5 of us. And I hate to be stereotypical and say no father in the household, single mom, but that's literally what it was. So it wasn't that. No, I take that back. My mother wanted to go to real estate school, but she never did. And I remember seeing these books that she had, and I've always been a reader, so I would like pick up the books that she had. So that might have been maybe half of a seed planted. But honestly, I started working in corporate. I went to this workshop by this investor in Chicago, and he was a millionaire, and he was an asshole. Like, he was one of those. He was like so rude and condescending, but he was knowledgeable though. So I tell people I can deal with assholes if you know what you're talking about. So he was that kind of person. But we ended up working. He's the reason why I got my real estate license, and he helped me get that. And then he was like, I see all this potential in you. I want to help you. I want to mentor you, which he did, which was a painful experience, but nevertheless still very helpful. But he is the reason why I got into real estate, because he was flipping properties and he was showing us checks, and it was like 35,000, 55,000, 70,000. And I was just like, yeah, I went in on that. I want to do that. And that was the first seed. And that was about 38 now. So that was like 25, I would say.
So why was it, you said it was a painful experience?
Yeah, because people always talk about how they want to mentor. I want to mentor. I need somebody to help me. As if mentoring is like this great experience. A really, really good mentor will push you to the point where you may not necessarily want to be pushed, and they bring something out of you that, you didn't know it was there. But growth is painful. So that's why because like I said, he was an asshole. Like, he was always like, he was the guy, Dr. Boyce, like, he would call me and leave a message. And then I would call him back, and he would say, well, did you listen to the message? And I would say, no, I just called you back. He was like, don't ever call me back without listening to the message. This is a waste of time. He was that type of dude.
I ain't gonna lie. I'm the same way.
I know.
I hate it when I leave a long message for somebody and then they call me back and I gotta repeat everything I just said. That drives me crazy. I ain't gonna
Yeah.
lie. I can't even blame
So
him.
do what he did. He was just like, he didn't repeat anything. He was like, go listen to the message. Don't call me back until you listen to the message.
Oh my God, that is hilarious. That is so funny. Well, and I agree with you. I mean, I think that, the reason that I think, growth becomes painful and why you need somebody to kind of kick you in the butt a little bit is because, we are all, so many of us, we're just all trapped, inside our own habits. Like you can't turn yourself into a different person most of the time. It's really hard. Like you could say it all day, like, oh, I like to eat sweets and I'm just going to become a person who eats healthy food all the time, or oh, I don't exercise and I'm going to become a fitness, guru or whatever. And it just doesn't work. Like when I kept telling myself I was going to lose weight, I just kept telling myself that, but I never did it, and it wasn't really until somebody just made me uncomfortable, like disrupted my schedule and was like, okay, I know you got this other thing you're going to do, this excuse you're about to make for why you can't go work out, but you have to be here now. Get
Yeah.
up, go do it now. And so I think that discomfort is so rewarding long term, but it's hard to commit to that. And so I agree with you. I think a good mentor, that's what a good mentor does. They push you. And once I learned that, I started realizing, no pain, no gain. And
Mhm.
the goal is really to go through that process. And so when I went to the gym and they were assigning me a trainer, and they said, well, what do you want the trainer to do? I said, I need the trainer to kick me in my ass. And they wrote it down on a piece of paper to kick him in his ass. I said, yes, kick me in my ass. I'm gonna fight you all day. I'm gonna get mad at you all day, but I need you to kick me in my ass. And the most interesting thing my trainer said to me, he was actually younger than me. He's like 20 something, but he said something that was really profound to me, where he was talking about, working out. And I said, well, how many push-ups am I supposed to do? He said, you're supposed to go until you achieve muscle failure.
Mhm.
And I said, that's so deep, that what you're saying is that the way my muscles grow back stronger is that they must fail. I have to
Yeah.
fail in order to grow.
Yeah. Break them down.
And failure is painful. Muscle failure is painful. And I think failure in life is painful, but you have to fail in order to grow. So I said, so what you're saying is that the goal is failure, and he said, yeah, I guess it is. And I said, yeah, okay. So every time I go work out now, I'm like, let's fail. I want to fail all day, every day, all the time, because I know how strong I'm going to be after I go through this process.
Mhm.
And I now apply that to life. I'm like, okay, what can I fail at today? I need to jump out here and fail.
Yeah.
If I'm too scared to fail, then I'm not ambitious enough to grow, right? Because if you're just succeeding and everything's going wonderfully and everything you do, it just turns to gold, then that means you're not really challenging yourself. You need to go out and fail, and that's hard to do. So anyway, with that said, let's tax liens. Okay, so let's get back to that. Let's
Mhm.
get refocused. All right. Sorry, it's my fault. I'm the one that goes off on the team. Everybody hit that thumbs up button, that share button, and the like button, and also make sure you follow Danielle Pierce on Instagram. Look her up on Facebook, stuff like that. She's a brilliant Black woman, and she does a lot of great stuff over at Fly Nubian Money as well. Okay, so how did you get started in tax liens? Like what was your first deal? Can you talk about that?
I
Like
can.
how you felt and just what that was like for you.
All right. So what happened is I was watching this guy on Periscope and he was talking about tax lien investing. I signed up for a class that he was doing. This was a couple years, about 3 years ago. So I did that. I didn't even finish the class and I went to a tax sale. I tell people all the time. So especially when it comes to real estate, so many of us, we go to training after training after training. We follow people. We go to free workshops. We listen to free webinars, and we don't do anything with that information. Like literally, we just go and we're motivated in the moment. And then once we leave, everything goes away after that. Like and it happens time and time again. So knowing that about myself and how I've been in the past, I shifted from that. I said, I'm going to go to a sale. So I went to I went to a tax deed sale. And just so you guys know, when you go to a deed sale, whatever you buy at the deed sale is yours. It's totally different from a lien sale. A deed is actually buying the property outright. So they were selling, this is in somewhere in Indiana, I think LaPorte County, and they were selling vacant lots and properties, and there was just so much adrenaline in the room. And of course, everybody was white. Of course, everybody was male. There was no Black people except for me and two women, and the rest were white men. And it was like, honestly, Dr. Boyce, it was like a good old boys club. It was like, hey, how you doing? You back again? I see you're going to get another property. And then I watched a guy, he was about 30 years old, and he won 6 acres for $6,000. And it was acres that was adjacent to the property that he already owned. And he was a repeat investor. You know, he was there and everybody was giving him a high five. And I was just like, oh my God, this dude just bought 6 acres for $6,000. Like, where have I been? Like, what have I been doing with my life? So at that sale, I ended up getting 2 vacant lots, and I only paid $150 for each lot. I still have them. Don't know what I'm going to do with them yet. But I tell people, you know, land is a non-renewable resource. There ain't going to be no more land. So to the extent that you can have your ownership interest in something, I mean, why not go for it? So that was like literally I jumped right in.
Let me ask you, you said you bought 2 lots for how much?
150 each. I bought $150 each. So I bought them, and I went to go get the deed recorded, and I paid an extra like $12. And I was like, bam, done deal. What's
now,
next?
you do know that people can't buy a good pair of Jordans for 150. Like, you know, people like, you do realize that people spent more money taking their family to see the Black Panther than you spent, or, you know, like if you add up dinner and a movie, right? Family of 4. Like, they literally spent more money going to the movies than you spent buying those 2 lots. You do know that there are families that will spend 10 times more money at Christmas on toys than you spent buying those 2 lots of property that could easily be in your family for 200 years if you want. That's insane. That is, I need y'all to process that. Black people, stop for a minute. Just stop what you're doing, because I'm about to ruin the image and the style that you're used to. Okay. I need y'all to, for real, like, stop for a minute, please. And don't just say, oh wow, that's amazing. Like I need y'all to really process this with me, please. Like a moment of silence as we reflect on the death of the Black dollar that happens on a daily basis as we give money away that could easily be used to establish a generational legacy. Like, I'm dead serious right now. Like what you just said, when $150. $150 to own, you said 2 lots?
2. So I paid $150 each. So a total of $300. Yeah.
$300 total for 2 plots of land. And land, as you said, land does not go away. Like, you can keep this forever. Like, this is yours. This is, you know, I mean, you know, I think that's so real. That's so, like, in your face that it's just, I mean, you can't sit here and tell me that we can't build some kind of wealth when you've got opportunities out there like that, you know, where you can buy, and maybe it's not $150, maybe it's $1,000. You know what I mean? Like I think even if you said $1,500 for the plots or for the, you know, for the lots, that even that would be like, wow, you know, but 150 is kind of insane. It doesn't even compute, you know?
Yeah, I actually sent you those screenshots too. So if you want to, they're in your Facebook Messenger inbox. I shot them over to you.
Oh, well, shoot, I'm gonna dig in and pull those up.
Yeah. So let me tell you about my next sale that I went to. So the next sale, actually, instead of buying vacant lots, I got 4 actually single family properties. And I got those 4 properties, and I paid a grand total of $3,000 for those properties. So one was $500, one was $800, one was $1,200, and another one was $500. And so this sale, the way it works out here, and this is in Lake County, Indiana, where we're talking about, the bids do start at $500, and it goes up from there. Now, people are always like, well, how much do I need? Like, how can I get started? Could you get a property for $500? Yes. Is it going to be move-in condition? No. And I really don't think you need to be like a rocket scientist to kind of figure that part out. But I will say, though, that the more money you spend, the better quality property that you'll ultimately acquire. And there is attorney's fees too. Let me not neglect to include that as well. That's a separate fee. But I share that with you guys that you'll know that, you know, it is possible. I've done it. I sent you the screenshot for that too as well. And for those 4 properties, one person redeemed it, which means I got my money back plus 10%. And then the other 3, I went on to get the deed to and actually wholesale those properties. So I don't want to get too much into wholesaling. Wholesaling is basically just taking the property as is, changing the lock and flipping it for it's less money than doing a traditional renovation and flip, but you get rid of the property a lot faster. So 4 properties, they were all in Gary, Indiana, and I paid, again, $3,000 total for all 4 of those properties. Yep.
Wow. I love that. And Gary, Indiana is like, you know, that's close to my heart. That's where, you know, that's, you know, actually where the awesome Black woman that I love is from, you know.
What?
Yeah. Like Gary, we go to Gary all the time, and we went there. We actually checked out Michael Jackson's house that the family.
Yep.
And it's such a tiny little house. Like it's hard to imagine two people living in that house, let alone six, seven, or eight of them, however many they had. You
Hmm.
know, but it does kind of speak to so many opportunities. In the sense that you can think of it. There are examples like Kenny Gamble in Philadelphia. He owns like a big chunk of this really expensive real estate in downtown Philadelphia, and he bought it in the 70s when nobody wanted to live there. You
Yeah.
know, and I'm a believer that places like Gary will rise again. The darkest parts of Detroit will rise again. And in a lot of these, even these small towns that aren't inhabited right now, they're going to rise. Those
Yeah.
real estate values. It's not that often when you see the value of a piece of land go down over, say, a 10-20 year period. I mean, I guess it does happen, in extreme or certain situations, but most of the time it goes up, one generation to the next. It's rare that you can find something that sold for more in 1970 than it sells for right now, right?
Absolutely.
So real estate is a beautiful intergenerational play, and I think that it's a great challenge for all of our families to just say maybe at Christmas time, like we're going to give ourselves the gift of ownership. We're gonna go maybe learn about tax liens so we can go buy a vacant lot or two that we can pass down to the kids or whatever it is we want to do with it. We're gonna go buy some shares of stock, which we teach you guys how to do in the Black Business School. We can show you in 5 minutes, 5 minutes to change your life. Or maybe you get that business off the ground. We love to show people that stuff too. So you teach a tax lien class.
I do.
Can you talk about that class and what people learn, when they go through your program?
Okay, but before I do that, I just wanted to touch on Gary real quickly. So Lake County, Indiana, is not just Gary. Gary is obviously the largest city, but a lot of people think Gary and they think like, Gary is depressed, nobody wants to live there, blah, blah, blah. And to a certain extent, that's true in certain areas, just like Chicago, where I'm from. Chicago, you got some areas where it's like, nah, I don't want to live there. And then other parts where it's unrecognizable. Gary actually has beachfront property, which I'm sure your fiance probably knows as well. They have property that backs up into Lake Michigan that costs $600,000. That's in Gary. There's certain parts where it looks like Hurricane Katrina hit yesterday or like a war zone. And then there's other parts where it's like, wow, I would not think I was in the same city. And then it's also inclusive of the surrounding cities as well. So it just depends upon how much money you're willing to spend and the type of property that you want. And make no mistake about it, they are investing in Gary right now. They are expanding the airport. They are building senior citizens homes. They are rebuilding this area of East Chicago, Indiana, to make it look more like Navy Pier in Chicago. So money is being pumped into the economy. It's just a question of how soon will you take advantage of it. And too many of us, we wait until the Chinese people come or the white people come, and then we say, "Oh, I'm locked out of buying these properties, or I didn't know about, it, or I wasn't given a chance." Well, now really, legitimately, is your chance to acquire these properties. There's nobody stopping you. And then you also want to jump in now too, because some of these counties, you guys across the country, they're making it to where only developers can bid on tax lien properties. And you don't want that to happen, because if that happens, then you literally are locked out and you can't acquire a property. So keep that in the back of your mind. So the course I do is designed to show people how to go from, okay, I don't know nothing about tax liens to I'm going to acquire a property. I like to show people how to fish. I want you to be hitched to me for life. I don't need you to be working with you for the next year. I want to tell you what to do so that you can go on and do it. So I teach you how to sort the list, which areas to look for, how to know which properties to avoid, because there's certain properties, for example, properties that have federal tax liens, which you don't want to invest in, because that's a property that you're not going to ever become the owner of, because you never go out, come up higher than the IRS, right? So you want to avoid those types of properties. I'd give you my referral to my attorney, who's bomb. All he does is tax liens. I have referrals for photographers, referrals for contractors as well, people to renovate the property. But really the big thing is sorting that list, which usually has, let's say 15,000 properties on it, 15,000 properties and vacant lots. And just so you know, it's not just single families, it's gas stations, 4 units, 6 units, 8 units, commercial properties, factories, beauty salons, medical offices. Like there's all types of properties available. So literally whatever you want, you can find. You just have to know how to find those properties. And that's what I cover in the online course.
Wow. Wow. Okay, well, you know what? I'll tell you what. Danielle has set up something where anybody who's watching this conversation can get a massive discount on the course. It's 75%, right? Did you say 75%?
It is 75%. It is
Okay,
75%.
I was making sure I didn't forget that. I was like, that's a big discount. But anybody who wants to try out Danielle's program, you can see that she knows what she's talking about. You can see that she, has the experience. You can go to, and everybody, somebody please type this in. It's a bit.ly link. So type in bit.ly, bit.ly, and then / Watkins. That way you can get the 75% discount. The program I think is a little over 1,200. Is that right, Danielle?
Yes,
About
that's correct.
1,200. But
And they'll need a coupon code too as well.
okay, and the coupon code is Boyce Watkins. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, I'm gonna type that in bit.ly / Boyce Watkins, and the coupon code is Boyce Watkins, just
Yes.
one word, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Everything's all lowercase.
Everything is lowercase. So go to bit.ly, not .com, bit.ly. The coupon code is Boyce Watkins, and you can get 75% off of her class. Which what does that make the price? It starts at 12 something, right? So what does that make the price approximately?
It'll take the price down to $397, and $397 covers like basically everything that I know to be transferred from myself to you. To date, just so you guys know, besides the properties that I've acquired, which is 7 so far, 7 properties in vacant lots, I've helped about 50 people or so get properties just this way. People who had no experience, no real estate background. All you need really is just the money, right? You need to be able to, the knowledge to execute, which you'll get from myself, and an ability to execute. Like I want people that are ready to take action, because like I said, a lot of us, we listen to things and we be like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, no, dude, it's life changing. Like this literally, by this time next year, you could be in a whole different financial position. You could be the owner of multiple investment properties. Like everything could change between now and 2019 if you were to take action, in 2018.
That's really powerful. Well, I guess my last question I'd like to ask you, Danielle, is, can you think of any stories that you've seen, where somebody's life changed because they found out about tax liens? I mean, I wouldn't have you in here if I wasn't convinced, that this is something definitely worth looking into. I mean, I just, everything I'm seeing just really says that this is a great way to go. But do you have a story of someone that that maybe went from where a lot of us are right now, working for the man, whatever it is, and got into, say, real estate tax liens, and they have a different life? Have you seen any of those transformations?
I can give you probably one of my most recent examples. It's actually a friend of mine. And for those of you who are business owners, you know that family and friends are sometimes the last folks to support you in anything that you do, just to keep it real.
Yeah.
So she's my friend of like years since college, and she knows exactly what I do. She knows exactly how much money I've made and how many properties I've acquired, and she knows everything. And then she finally decided to go ahead and invest in this September sale, which just passed. And the thing about it is, she lives in Boston, which Boston has tax lien sales as well, but Boston's price points, they don't start at $500. They start at like a couple $100,000. And so she was actually able to acquire a brick 3-unit property. I have pictures of it. It's a great looking property. She ended up paying $3,900 for that property. And she is super excited and super geeked, and she pulled it off, and she did it without visiting Indiana, without coming to Chicago, without getting on a plane, without paying for a hotel room. We just worked together. I helped her locate the property. She found the property. We got the photographer. We did all of that. Signed, sealed, delivered. Like I said, $3,900. So she is like ecstatic. She's ecstatic.
That is insane.
Oh, and I should also say she is the most risk averse. She's also an auditor. The most risk averse, like question asking person, like ever. You know what I mean? So for her, I feel like if she can do it, then literally anybody who's watching can do it. Because this child don't lose no money. Let me just say that.
Oh my God, that is insane. I was looking. I'm gonna tell you what, I was going through our thread, and I was looking for the image of the property that you mentioned, the one that you said you bought for 150 bucks, that vacant lot. I cannot find it for some reason, and I scrolled up and down, and so maybe what we can do is bring you back next time, and
Okay.
we can bring the image, and I can share it then, and because this won't
Okay.
be the last time we talk. So everybody, please take a second, show your love. Please thank Miss Pierce for blessing us with her insight and knowledge.
Yeah.
And once again, for those of you who did not get the link to the URL to take her class, if you're interested, you can go to bit.ly. That's bit.ly, bit.ly/Boyce Watkins, and use the coupon code. If you want 75% off, you can use the coupon code Boyce Watkins, one word, all lowercase. So bit.ly/Boyce Watkins, and use the code Boyce Watkins, one word, lowercase, and you can get 75% off her tax lien class. And someone was asking, how long does this coupon last? What do you think,
The
Danielle?
coupon code will be good for the first 10 people. And then after that, it won't work anymore.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. First 10 people. So first 10 people, you get the discount. So you might want to hurry up and rush over there, because it sounds like that's the only this is a code that doesn't last that long. So thank you very much, Danielle. I appreciate it. It was great talking to you.
Likewise.
All right. And thank you guys for hanging out. Make sure you hit the like button, the share button, and subscribe button. And also, don't forget, in the Black Business School, we cover pretty much everything when it comes to non-traditional, non-standardized ways of building wealth. We're better than college, because college teaches you a bunch of expensive stuff that doesn't give you the value you need. We focus specifically on things that solve specific problems, and that's what our professors do. So feel free to go check it out, theblackbusinessschool.com. So take care, everybody. I'll see you soon. And
All right. Take care, y'all.
thanks again, Danielle. All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.